Hello and welcome to this week's Hippie Hyena. Today we're taking a look at this character that was recommended to me by one of my viewers. Finally got around to it. His name is Coach Red Pill, which, considering the origins of the term red pill, I imagine that means he enjoys taking estrogen pills, which is absolutely fine by me. If that's what I suppose she wants to do. So we're gonna take a look at him, who's gonna take a look at another video, and the video that he's gonna take a look at is about, right-wing domestic terrorism. We're probably going to skip through that bit and get straight onto his commentary about it, because that's the kind of more interesting bit.
I was going to post a completely different video today. I was going to post a video where I basically argue that the left is going to persecute Trump after he's left office. They won't give up on that one. Oh no. And they're going to eventually throw him into prison.
Well, you know, that's what usually happens when people commit crimes. Hopefully. Anyway, they get in trouble for it.
But that video, I'm just going to postpone it because something happened last night that is just so crazy that, well, you'll have to see it for yourself. The video I'm about to show was posted last night on Twitter by a guy called Don Winslow. I have no idea who this guy is, and I could care less.
It's always fun when right-wing idiots sort of wear their ignorance as a sort of mark of pride, isn't it?
But what I do know is that the video he released is insane, and I want you to take a look at it. Here goes.
So we're not going to watch that video because it would just be a waste of our time, but if you really want to check it out, I mean, you can easily find it out there. It's not that difficult. It's not that interesting. All it's basically saying is that, like, the sort of types who invaded the Capitol building haven't gone anywhere, and that they still pose a threat to people's safety in America, which is true, which is a fact. Might be a bit hyperbolic and sort of done in that sort of slightly overly American style with sort of scary music and stuff, but the content of what it's saying is, like, true. You know, just because Trump is no longer president doesn't mean that the people who were crazy and followed him with a massive passion have gone anywhere and have stopped being the morons that they are and have stopped being as dangerous as they are. In fact, perhaps this could mean that they're more dangerous because they're kind of out on a limb, you know, more desperate, like cornered animals, I suppose. Anyway, that's what this video's about. Now let's have a look at what he's got to say about it.
There is a moment when political hyperbole, the kind of exaggeration that you fling at your opponents, yeah, that kind of normal political hyperbole kind of like crosses over into the realms of insanity.
True, but not in this case, because those mad terrorists literally tried to stage a coup and murder the opposition to try and, you know, instill a fascist dictator in America. So it's not really hyperbole. If anything, it's underperbole. Is that a word?
And I think this video that you just saw is proof positive of that. An example of that.
You know, it's absolutely staggering to me, absolutely staggering, that they're still trying to present a whole sort of, you know, the peaceful right-wingers and nobody in their movement is sort of, you know, and it's all it's the violent left and all that, when they literally tried to take over the country with violent force. Like, you can't call it hyperbole anymore. That ship sailed, mate. That ship sailed, gone to the other country, picked up its cargo, and come back. Like, for God's sake, it's over. You can't say that anymore because you've proven it's not true. Let's take a moment to remind ourselves of the sort of peaceful protesters that he's talking about. Those people who serve no threat as domestic terrorists and are just peaceful, law-abiding citizens from the party of law and order.
And what's deeply disturbing is not the video in and of itself, but the fact that so many people on the left agree with it, are approving of it.
I know, it's really disturbing, you know, that people on the left just have this weird fascination with, like, facts that can, like, you know, inform their opinions. And that's really damaging to people on the right.
Are saying that, yes, we should all become informants and persecute these domestic terrorists. These domestic terrorists who are essentially half of America.
It was a few thousand, but I mean, the population of America is about 330 million. So it's hardly half the country. I mean, if it was half the country, maybe you guys would have won an election instead of lost it really bad.
Yeah, because it's basically saying that there are extreme radical conservatives, otherwise known as domestic terrorists. I mean, right away, the guy is making this equivalence between what is to be conservative and what is to be a domestic terrorist, huh?
No, you're doing that. You're doing that right now. You're trying to bundle all of the people who either voted for Trump with all of the people who are genuine domestic terrorist threats. Not him. You just did that. And the thing is, if you vote for Trump, it doesn't mean you're a domestic terrorist. Now, you are a bad person. That's not to say you're irredeemable. Like, you could, get some more information, reject some misinformation, and slowly build your way to becoming a good person. I wouldn't just write you off completely. But it doesn't make you a domestic terrorist. And that's not what this documentary or anyone is saying, except for you. You're conflating the two. You're conflating the two. And the reason you're conflating the two is because you're trying to normalize the behavior of people who are domestic terrorists. And you're trying to unify domestic terrorists with your average right-wing head case so that you can use the foot soldiers of your average right-wing moron as a protective shield to protect the domestic terrorist types. And you're doing it in such a way to try and normalize the domestic terrorist types. To say that, they're just the ordinary Trump voters. So what's really crazy is that he's doing this while simultaneously complaining about the left doing exactly what he's just doing.
I mean, right off the bat, right? But then he basically goes on and says that these people have infiltrated American society and that these people pose a threat because they're everywhere. Well, the thing is, these so-called domestic terrorists are people who voted for the other guy. That's basically what's going on.
It's literally staggering. The levels of projection here are unbelievable, and the hypocrisy is just mind-blowing. He literally just finished the sentence where he said that the left were conflating these two groups into one group, and then literally went on to do exactly the same himself. In the very next sentence. He didn't even take a breath between those two statements. Unbelievable.
Huh? There were two candidates for president. Well, there were a couple of others, but they were inconsequential. Two major candidates for president. Now, irrespective of how you think that the election went down, which is a subject for a completely different video, right? One of them won and the other one lost. And in a democracy, in order for a democracy to function, you have to have the consent of the loser.
Which, let's not forget, not only did we not have, but just a second ago, he implied that there was some election cheating, which is nonsense. So he doesn't even think there should have been consent of the loser either. If he was in charge of it, he wouldn't have consented. So this concept of they had the consent of the loser, just remember this, that they absolutely did not. They basically had to drag it out of him under threat of prison time. That's really what happened.
And also, the winner has to have a little bit of understanding about the position of the loser.
No, they don't. Not if the position of the loser is utterly idiotic. You can just ignore it, because that's what you're supposed to do with idiots.
I mean, all those people who voted for the other guy didn't vote for the other guy just because, or just because they hated the guy who won. No, they had legitimate grievances, legitimate issues.
If your grievance is that you think that the Jews are trying to replace white people by importing immigrants for reasons, then it's not legitimate. It's not legitimate. Basically, they're pumped up on a steady diet of fake news until they've been cranked up into a tizzy and then let loose on the public. That's essentially who the base is. Specifically, people with imagined grievances that are completely illegitimate. I mean, a lot of these people could have grievances that would be legitimate, and you could make the argument that those legitimate grievances going unaddressed has led to them adopting fake grievances. But these are people who spend their time worrying about whether trans people could go into unisex bathrooms. These are people who've spent the time since the election worried about Mr. potato head, and whether the company that prints Dr. Seuss books decides or not to stop producing very unpopular ones. Like, these are people without legitimate grievances. They're people with the idiotic grievances of idiots.
But this video is basically saying that all those legitimate grievances, legitimate issues, are not legitimate.
In fact, it wasn't saying that, but if it was, it'd be correct. It'd be true.
This is a shit video, I know. I'm not giving any kind of like serious analysis, but I'm just so blown away.
Well, you must be blown away a lot then, because pretty much all of your videos are like this, in your own words, shit. Well, amazing. The hypocrisy of the right knows no bounds, seemingly. They just try and act as if the Capitol riot didn't happen, as if we've all just forgotten that it happened. Which is bizarre, because it was big news. It was big news even over here, in Britain. It was probably big news everywhere. We're not going to forget in a hurry. I know it's very inconvenient to your narrative, but it did happen. I mean, this guy is just pretty much wrong on every single factual issue. And he's wrong on his analysis and opinions as well. But it's the facts that really are surprising, in the sense that, like, he's literally ignoring things that, like, happen in front of all of our faces, that all of his viewers will know did in fact happen. We know that the Capitol riot happened. We know that Trump didn't concede defeat after he lost the election. We know these things. Everyone knows these things. And yet here he is, just barefaced lying to us about it. Totally crazy. It's just schizophrenic, almost. Like, to hold these two contradictory pieces of information in the mind at once. To simultaneously know that something happened, but also, with the other hand, just act as if it just didn't. Totally round the bend. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe, I guess. Bye. Mwah.